Once upon a time, in the vast expanse of the cosmos, there was a nation that once dreamed of touching the star Shusha. In the golden age of space exploration, the Soviet Union, a giant of science and ambition, reached for the heavens with a determination that seemed almost poetic. Among its many triumphs, one mission stood out like a beacon in the dark: the exploration of Venus. It was the 1960s, a decade of fire and ice, of rockets and dreams. The Soviet Union, in a fierce competition with the United States, had already launched the first satellite, Sputnik, and the first human into space, Yuri Gagarin. But the stars were not only for Earth's orbit, they were for the distant planets too. And Venus, the morning star, the planet cloaked in mystery and shrouded in thick clouds, beckoned. The first Soviet probe to Venus, Venera 1, was launched in 1961. It was a bold attempt, a leap into the unknown. Though it failed to return data, it was a step forward. The next few years saw a series of missions: Venera 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14, each one a testament to Soviet ingenuity and courage. Venera 7, in 1970, became the first spacecraft to successfully land on another planet and transmit data back to Earth. It survived the crushing pressure and scorching heat of Venus's surface, sending back a mere 20 minutes of signals before the heat destroyed it. But those 20 minutes were enough to prove that Venus, though hostile, was not beyond human reach. The Venera missions were a triumph. They revealed that Venus was a world of fire and sulfur, with a surface temperature hot enough to melt lead, and a pressure 90 times that of Earth. The atmosphere was thick, with carbon dioxide and sulfuric acid clouds. It was a planet that looked like a hellish version of Earth once, perhaps, but now a furnace. The Soviet scientists were stunned. They had expected a world similar to Earth, perhaps a tropical paradise. Instead, they found a planet that was the opposite of paradise, a world where the sun never set, where the sky was always red, and where the wind howled like a demon's scream. Yet, they pressed on. They sent more probes, more landers, more instruments. They studied the atmosphere, the clouds, the surface. They discovered that Venus had once had oceans, but they had boiled away, leaving behind a world of desolation. And then, something changed. The Cold War intensified. The United States, with its Apollo program, focused on the moon. The space race shifted from the stars to the lunar surface. The Soviet Union, already strained by the cost of the space program and the burden of the war in Afghanistan, began to lose momentum. The Venera missions, though successful, were expensive. The Soviet Union had to choose where to allocate its limited resources. In the 1980s, the Soviet Union launched a new mission to Venus, Venera 15-16. These were orbiters, not landers. They mapped the surface of Venus with radar, revealing a world of volcanoes, mountains, and vast plains. But even as they mapped the planet, the Soviet Union was beginning to crumble. The economy was in decline. The political system was unstable. The dream of space exploration was fading. In 1991, the Soviet Union collapsed. The Russian Federation emerged, a shadow of its former self. The space program, once a source of national pride, was now a burden. The new government had to make difficult choices. Should it spend money on space exploration or on rebuilding its economy? Should it send missions to Venus or focus on Earth? The answer was clear. The Russian space program, once a beacon of innovation and ambition, began to shrink. The Venera missions were a memory. The scientists who had once dreamed of exploring Venus were now working on other projects. The rockets that had once soared into the sky were now grounded. The dream of Venus was fading, but the dream did not die. In the 2000s, Russia launched a new mission to Venus. Venera. It was a joint project with the European Space Agency. The goal was to send a lander to Venus to study its atmosphere, its surface, and its potential for life. But the project was delayed. The Russian economy was still struggling. The government was still focused on Earth. The dream of Venus was still alive, but it was fading. And so, the dream of Venus remains unfulfilled. Russia has not returned to Venus. The planet remains a mystery, a world of fire and sulfur, a world that once looked like Earth, but now is a furnace. The Soviet Union, once a giant of space exploration, is now a shadow of its former self. The dream of Venus is still alive, but it is a dream that may never be realized. And so, the story of Russia and Venus is a tale of ambition and loss, of dreams and reality. It is a story of a nation that once reached for the stars, but was brought down by the weight of its own history. And it is a story of a planet that remains a mystery, a world of fire and sulfur, a world that may never be explored.